1 week after the US paused military assistance to Ukraine, including intelligence sharing, Washington says it has changed its mind. The announcement follows talks in Saudi Arabia where Kyiv said it will back a US proposal for a 30-day ceasefire with Russia. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said it's now up to the Kremlin to make a move. He added that if Moscow says no to the proposal, the US would conclude Russia is the real impediment to peace. Here's more of what Marco Rubio had to say after those talks with Ukraine in Jeddah.
Today we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. And hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians. And we hope that they'll say yes to peace. The ball's now in their court.
Well, Doug Klain is a non-resident fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Centre, where he focuses on Russia's war on Ukraine. I asked him earlier what incentives Moscow could have to agree to a 30-day ceasefire deal.
Well, the United States and Ukraine, thankfully, have put Moscow in something of a tough position right now. The Russians, of course, have been the chief obstacle to peace in this war for over 3 years now. The Russians can stop fighting at any time, and they choose to keep fighting. Right now, the ball is in Russia's court to agree to this 30-day ceasefire. And it's actually a bit of a difficult situation for Vladimir Putin. Just yesterday, Ukraine launched the largest drone strike on Moscow yet in this war. For Putin to immediately agree to a ceasefire risks some domestic political blowback. At the same time, Putin has been exploiting divisions between the United States and Ukraine for weeks now, trying to make it seem like Ukraine is the impediment to peace. The news that the U.S. had cut off military support for Ukraine was music to Putin's ears. Putin wants to avoid the opposite happening now. If he appears to be the belligerent, the intransigent who will not work with the United States and agree to a ceasefire, Trump may well increase military support for Ukraine and give it more leverage.
Yeah, they say you never ask a question you don't know the answer to in journalism. Do you think the Trump administration is prepared in any way for Russia saying no?
I think that's an excellent question. The Trump administration has acted for weeks as if they are trying to have a reset with Russia. In fact, Special Envoy Keith Kellogg, used those exact words to describe their approach to Russia: resetting relations, trying to have a good relationship with Russia. Trump seems to take Putin at his word when Putin says he wants peace. I think that Trump is likely expecting that Putin will agree to this. What actually happens remains to be seen. But I think the incentives are lining up for Russia to say yes, at least for now, and try to see what happens, try to find future divisions between the U.S. and Ukraine to exploit. Russia's goals of destroying Ukraine have not changed. They're just trying to find the path to get there.
Territory, Doug, is the big sticking point in negotiations, we understand. Let's listen in now to Trump's response to this question a reporter asked in Washington.
Mr. President, will you talk to Vladimir Putin about this ceasefire deal? Do you think you need to have a conversation with him to get the Russians to agree?
I'll talk to Vladimir Putin, yeah.
When will
I
you
want to
talk
get,
to
look, that's the other, it takes two to tango, as they say, right? So hopefully he'll also agree, and I really think that would be 75% of the way. The rest is getting it documented and, negotiating land positions, etc.
So
all right, Doug, negotiating land positions, etc. Does that sound like a plan to you?
Well, it does sound like the concept of a plan from Trump. It's good to hear that the onus is back on Putin. For weeks, the U.S. has been on a pressure campaign against Ukraine. And I think a lot of folks have wanted to see Trump instead put that pressure on Putin, on Moscow. They're the ones at fault here. When it comes to Trump talking about territory, of course, Ukraine still rightly asserts, that it's trying to restore its 1991 borders, its internationally recognized borders. I think it's important for the United States going forward, perhaps to look at history, to, past examples when the U.S. has not recognized Russian claims over other countries. We can look actually quite recently at the first Trump administration, when then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo declared that the United States did not recognize Russia's claims over Crimea. Going forward, the Ukrainians, I think, are going to have to figure out how can they talk to Trump in the way that shows they are still on his side, they are following his lead, they do want peace, while making sure that they are not compromising on their fundamental issues of sovereignty and security.
Fascinating and critical moment. Doug Klain from the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Centre. Great to get your input. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
US President Donald Trump has backed down from doubling tariffs on Canadian metal imports to 50%, just hours after threatening to do so. Trump announced the reversal after the Canadian province of Ontario said it would suspend its price surcharge on electricity sold to the US. It comes as back and forth tariff threats have plunged markets in the US. A previously planned 25% tariff on all steel and aluminium imports is still set to take effect on Wednesday. Well, journalist Sean Mallen has been watching the tariff roller coaster. He's in Toronto. Great to have you with us. On Tuesday morning, US President Trump vowed to double tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminium products. Now he seems to have rethought his decision. How's this going down in Canada?
Well, not well, Anthony. It is the whole tariff battle has been dominating the news cycle, and it's effectively completely taken over the political agenda, both provincially and federally. The Premier of Ontario just won an election in the last couple of weeks that was all about protecting the province against the effects of the tariff battles. There he is there, Premier Doug Ford of Ontario. And we, as you probably are aware, are about to have a new Prime Minister. Mark Carney will be taking over within the next couple of days from Justin Trudeau. And everything having to do with the Liberal leadership race that he dominated and won easily was all about who's best equipped to cope with the threats posed by Donald Trump. And he will probably, within a week or two, be calling a federal election, and that will be the only overriding issue dominating everything. Who's best equipped to deal with Trump? It's also led to an upsurge in Canadian nationalism. Canadians are not known for being overtly patriotic, but suddenly people are waving the flag, proposing to buy Canadian as opposed to American, canceling their trips to the United States. And some Canadian provinces, most Canadian provinces, have pulled American liquor products off the shelves, which is a big deal in Kentucky, where their bourbon, their number one export market, is Canada. But as of today, they're selling nothing here.
Yeah, incoming Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney wants to keep Canada's retaliatory tariffs in place until Americans show respect. Can there really be an end to this really fierce rhetoric when it is, as you say, working so well politically?
Well, everyone in Canada would dearly love to see an end to this rhetoric, because the simple fact is the American economy is 10 times the size of the Canadian economy. They can inflict more pain on Canada than Canada can inflict on them. So there's a great desire to have it over with. But Mr. Trump seems absolutely determined, despite the impact on the American economy. You've been reporting on the poor results on the U.S. stock markets lately, and likely leading to greater inflation in the United States as well. But he seems determined, and everyone here is just hoping that the political damage in the United States relating to the economy might be enough to call him off. But so far, no sign of that.
Yeah, Sean, your firm specialises in crisis communications, and here we are. What's your professional recommendation to these two sides who, at the moment, are seemingly enjoying this rock fight?
Well, I can tell you on the Canadian side, no one is enjoying it. This is a very uncomfortable time for the Canadians. And Mr. Trump, he seems to be a force onto his own on these matters. I can tell you, though, for people in my business, the big business here in crisis communications goes to American multinational firms, iconic firms that sell their products in Canada, who are all very afraid of consumer boycotts. So my work lately has been a lot of working with them to try to establish their Canadian roots, the fact that they employ a lot of Canadian workers, and to effectively, please don't stop buying our products. But I'm afraid we've got a rough road still ahead. A lot of concern that this tariff battle could induce a rather nasty recession in Canada unless Mr. Trump is somehow persuaded to back off.
Yeah, good luck with that. Canadian journalist Sean Mallen, thanks so much.